after talking about the heart, the detailed structure, the blood vessels, and all parts related to the heart, there is a missing part. Always when you learn biology or you learn anything, try to think about it as a puzzle. And you want to finish those parts of the puzzle to reach or know the whole picture. So you can know everything related to that topic. And connect the information so you reach a good level of understanding. Today we'll be talking about the blood. The blood is the fluid passing through the heart and the blood vessels. And we all know that the color of blood is red. Today we'll explain why it's red, what are the components of the blood, and what is the function of each component, and where all these things or all these components are produced. The blood consists of 55% of plasma, 44% red blood cells, and only 1% white blood cells and platelets. Don't get confused, don't think there's a hard thing. You don't have to memorize these things because we'll go through each part and talk about it specifically. You have only now few things to keep in your mind, that the blood is not only one component, it has many components. The first thing, the plasma, and the cellular part, which is the RBCs, red blood cells, the white BCs, white blood cells, and the platelets. All these together forming what we know as blood. Now let's go to the details. To make it easier for you, for your understanding and memorization, keep in your mind that all parts of the blood are formed in the bone marrow. The bone marrow. The bone marrow is the part inside the bone that is forming the blood, the cellular part of the blood, the RBCs, white BCs, and platelets. So whenever we go through each part of them, you have to know and keep in your mind that all of them are formed in the bone marrow. Let's start now with the RBCs. RBCs are red blood cells. What are we going to be talking about? We'll talk about the site of formation, how do they look like, and what is the function of RBCs. And this goes for everything else. So the RBCs, as we mentioned before, that all blood cells are formed in the bone marrow. So RBCs are one of those cells. So they're formed also in the bone marrow. How do they look like? They look like this thing. They're disc-like cells. Keep in your mind that RBCs has no nuclei. It has no nucleus. It's a cell, but it has no nucleus. This is a special thing about RBCs. It is red in color because it has something called hemoglobin. Hemoglobin is the part responsible for the red color of the blood, or the red color of RBCs, because the RBCs are responsible for the red color of the blood. So the hemoglobin has two parts, heme and globin. The heme part is the iron, and the globin part is the protein. Iron, hemoglobin, RBCs. Can you make it more simple? Yes. Hemoglobin is the part responsible for giving the red color of RBCs. When you have good amount of hemoglobin, that means that blood or RBCs are functioning in a good way. But when you have less hemoglobin, that means that you have a problem in transforming oxygen into cells. So this is related to function. As we always say, that the structure is related to the function. So hemoglobin is not only responsible for the color, it's not an important part, but the important part that the hemoglobin is functioning carrying oxygen. Hemoglobin is formed of iron. When I say that hemoglobin is formed of iron, that means if you're not getting enough iron in your diet, your hemoglobin will be less than normal. and you get something or a disease called anemia. We'll not be talking about in details about this disease. We'll be covering it in the future, but now just keep in your mind that if you don't have the right amount of hemoglobin in your body, you'll develop something called anemia. If the function of hemoglobin is carrying oxygen, function of RBC is carrying oxygen, so when you have anemia, you have less oxygen. This is the basic thing about the topic. Just keep the basic things, you're not supposed to know more than that. Hemoglobin plus oxygen gives oxygenated blood. So when I say that the blood is oxygenated, I mean that hemoglobin is carrying a lot of oxygen. Like in the respiratory system where we have a lot of oxygen, so the pressure, the oxygen is high in amount, so the hemoglobin carries a lot of oxygen. It's called oxygenated. RBCs produced in the bone marrow, but they do not live forever. They do not stay, you're not born with the same RBCs you have now. RBCs live for about 120 days or about 4 months. So after that, they're destructed. Destructed where? Destructed in the liver. So the hemoglobin is destructed in the liver, and what is produced out of that is a pigment called bilirubin. Bilirubin is the pigment produced from destruction of hemoglobin. And also, if you get high bilirubin in your body, that means the hemoglobin is destructed more than usual, or there is a disease affecting your hemoglobin or RBCs to be destructed, and the bilirubin is more than usual, you get the yellowish coloration in your sclera, which is called as jaundice. You don't have to know all these details. Keep in your mind that the RBCs are produced in the bone marrow. They're disc-like cells, no nuclei. They contain a pigment causing them to be red, which is called hemoglobin. The hemoglobin consists of iron, heme part, and globin part. The heme part is the iron, and the globin part is protein. So you have to get enough amount of iron in order to form enough amount of RBCs to carry oxygen in your body. Hemoglobin plus oxygen gives the oxygenated blood. RBCs do not live more than 120 days or about 4 months. Hemoglobin has to be destructed, and the bone marrow, and if you think now, what if we destroy the hemoglobin or RBCs, what will happen? Your bone marrow will start producing other cells, so don't worry about that part. Hemoglobin is destructed in the liver, and the liver, after destruction, producing what is called as bilirubin. Bilirubin is yellow pigment, and if it is increased, a disease will result called jaundice. This is the main thing. What is the function of RBCs? The main function of RBCs is carrying oxygen to the lungs, carrying oxygen to other body tissues. So it is actually it's like a delivery guy. It's delivering oxygen to all parts of your body and deliver carbon dioxide from the tissue to the lungs, because there is a kind of exchange, as we mentioned before when we talked about the capillaries. The capillaries are the site, but the cells are called RBCs and containing hemoglobin.